them all what I'm made up. Strut down the hall, won't stop till I get enough.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're all about getting to the heart of complex topics quickly and without getting lost in the weeds.
That's right. We try to cut through the noise.
Exactly. So today, we're diving deep into a recent football match that has everyone talking. The Champions League quarterfinal first leg between Real Madrid and Arsenal.
Yeah, this one was a big one.
Huge. We'll be using a great analysis piece from Goal.com US to guide us. They've got some really interesting player ratings and insights.
Always good to have that kind of expert perspective.
Definitely. So our mission here is to break down what went down in this match, why it matters, and what we might expect in the second leg. We'll focus on the key moments and how those players performed, saving you from having to wade through the whole match report yourself. Sound good?
Let's get into it.
Okay, so first things first, the setting. Emirates Stadium in England.
Arsenal's home turf.
Right. And it was the first leg of the Champions League quarterfinal between, as we said, Real Madrid and Arsenal, two European giants.
Right off the bat, the most striking thing from the Goal.com article is the final score. Arsenal beat Real Madrid, and they beat them convincingly, 3-0.
3-0.
Wow.
Not what many people would have predicted, I'm sure.
Definitely not. If you follow European football, you know Real Madrid's history in this competition is, well, legendary. They're often considered the kings of Europe.
The benchmark.
Exact.
So to see them lose like that, let alone to Arsenal.
That's a huge statement.
For sure. So the article talks about the game being a tale of two halves.
Yeah, the first half, it was scoreless, but it wasn't exactly calm. It was a pretty testy affair, as the article puts it. But then the second half, Arsenal just dominated.
What was it about that first half that was so, I don't know, tense, even though there were no goals?
Well, the way Arsenal approached the game was really interesting. They had a lot of possession, and they were especially dangerous down Real Madrid's left side. Bukayo Saka specifically was causing all sorts of problems for David Alaba, who was actually a surprise starter at left back for Real Madrid.
So you're thinking maybe Arsenal had a plan going into the match, knowing Alaba might be out of position.
Could be. It seems like they targeted Real Madrid's left flank, recognizing it as a potential weakness, and it was a good strategy. The article says Saka was really teasing Alaba, which suggests he was winning most of their one-on-one battles.
Sounds like it. But even though Arsenal were creating those chances, they just couldn't seem to finish them off in the first half.
Yeah, they lacked that final touch, that killer instinct in front of goal. But Real Madrid weren't completely out of it, even though they were on the back foot.
Still had some bite.
Right. The article says they looked occasionally dangerous on the break, which, if you know Real Madrid, is kind of their signature move. They love to hit teams on the counterattack.
Classic Real Madrid.
Exactly. And Kylian Mbappé, leading those counterattacks, actually forced Arsenal's goalkeeper, David Raya, into making a couple of big saves. So even though Arsenal were controlling the ball, Real Madrid were still lurking, waiting for their moment.
Keeping the pressure on.
Absolutely. And then right before halftime, there is this massive moment. Thibaut Courtois, Real Madrid's goalkeeper, made an absolutely crucial save.
From who?
Declan Rice. He got his head on a cross, and it was a powerful header, goal-bound, but Courtois somehow managed to parry it away.
Wow. That could have changed everything.
Totally. If Arsenal had scored just before the break, the whole game could have gone differently. So that save by Courtois was absolutely vital in keeping the score level going into halftime.
Kept them in it.
For sure. But then the second half starts, and it's like a different game. The report says the second half became more open, and that's when Arsenal really took control and scored those 3 goals.
Okay, let's break down those goals. The first one came just before the hour mark, right?
Yep. Just shy of the hour mark, the article says.
And who scored?
Declan Rice.
Again.
Yeah. Same guy who almost scored just before halftime. This time, it was a free kick from about 30 yards out. Sounds like he hit it perfectly, found the back of the net, and finally broke the deadlock for Arsenal.
The floodgates opened.
In a way, yeah, because the article mentions that Arsenal almost scored again right after that first goal. Courtois actually made a double save, unbelievable reflexes.
Take them in it again.
He tried, but the article says the big Belgian couldn't do it a second time. Just moments later, Rice scores his second goal, another free kick. 2 free kick goals in a Champions League quarterfinal. That's special.
That's got to be demoralizing for Real Madrid.
Oh, yeah, and it gets worse. With only 15 minutes left, Arsenal scored their 3rd goal. Mikel Merino, tidy finish from the top of the box, the report says. Game over at that point, 3-0. And the article doesn't hold back when describing Real Madrid's performance.
No punches pulled.
Nope. They say Real Madrid were hammered, And now face a massive deficit going into the second leg in Madrid. Pretty strong words.
Yeah, especially considering Real Madrid's reputation. And the article goes on to call out some of Real Madrid's star players for their, I guess, lack of performance.
Definitely. They say Vinicius Jr., who's usually so dangerous in attack, looked like a shadow of his usual self. They even titled the article, "Where Are You, Vinny Jr.?"
Ouch.
Yeah, pretty harsh. So it makes you wonder, was Arsenal's defense just that good, or was something else going on with Real Madrid's tactics that kept him quiet?
It's a good question. Maybe a bit of both. Maybe Arsenal had a specific game plan to neutralize him, and maybe Real Madrid's attack just wasn't clicking as a whole.
It's possible. Because it wasn't just Vinicius Jr., they also say Kylian Mbappé, another one of their big-name players, went missing in the match.
So 2 of their main attacking threats were basically shut down.
Pretty much. And the article points out that Real Madrid failed to create on the counter, which is usually their bread and butter.
So they weren't effective on the counter, and their star players were quiet. It's not hard to see why they struggled to score.
Not at all.
But even though it was a bad loss for Real Madrid, the article does say that we can expect a response from them in the second leg. They say surely there will be a Madrid response next week, but, as they also point out, they have left it all to do for themselves.
They've got a mountain to climb.
Big time.
3-0 is a tough deficit to overcome, especially against a team like Arsenal that's clearly playing well.
Yeah. And it's worth mentioning that the Goal.com analysis includes individual player ratings given by their experts.
Always interesting to see how the experts rate the players.
Definitely. And even though they don't give us all the specific ratings, it's clear from the tone of the article that those key attacking players for Real Madrid probably didn't get good marks.
Which makes sense, given the result.
Right. So, to sum up, Arsenal pulled off a huge upset, beating Real Madrid 3-0 in the first leg of their Champions League quarterfinal. It wasn't even close. Arsenal were dominant, their tactics worked, and they finished their chances. On the other hand, Real Madrid looked out of sorts, their counterattacks weren't working, and their star players were kept quiet.
Quite a match.
Absolutely. Now, here's the big question for you all to think about. Given this result and the struggles of those big-name Real Madrid players, what do they need to do to turn things around in the second leg? Can they overcome a 3-0 deficit against a tough Arsenal side?
Or has this match shown us that Arsenal are the real deal, a genuine contender for the Champions League title?
A lot to think about. The pressure is on both teams, and the second leg is sure to be a thriller. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then.